YouTube friends. Thank you for joining us. We have a lot of amazing pilots here tonight, and this stream is basically, we got a whole bunch of influential pilots together to ask them some questions, plus get their take on some trending topics in the FPV community. We also have our friends in the Facebook chat this evening. We're watching you guys and we're checking in on your questions, so feel free to ask any questions and interact in the live discussion. For the debut of this episode, we contacted 4 prominent pilots with a strong social media presence, and we've seen a lot of questions and posts from them on social media. So first off, we'd like to introduce our panel of pilots. We'll start off with Brian Brain Drain Morris. Hello, Brian. Next, we have Mr. Corey C. Train Yates. Then we have one of the fastest pilots out of the Pacific Northwest. His name is Ryan Rotorius Evans.
Howdy.
And finally, we have, he was crowned the 2017 Multi-GP National Champion, and he'll be defending his title this December. Our very own Alex, Captain Vanover. Hi, Alex.
Hey, guys.
For those in the chat, we'll be monitoring again what you guys say, so make sure to ask your questions. So let's get started with our first topic, guys. Is the debate over?
I think so.
Should pilots switch over from 4S to 6S for the Multi-GP 2018 racing season? Is 6S the golden bullet?
I'll jump in and say that.
Go ahead, guys.
Yeah. I'll say that if you're buying new stuff, then yes. If you're still, if you're happy with what you got, you don't have to chuck it in the bin. It's not, it's not, it's not at that point yet.
Yeah, I mean, I would kind of agree with that, to be honest. I mean, I've been a pretty big advocate for 4S, as many people know. I personally think that if you're getting into it, I would slightly agree. I think that I think you should try both, because I think at the end of the day, what I've found is it's going to come down to personal preference and what quad you're going to fly best. I mean, I know a lot of pilots have drastically improved in their flying when they switched to 6S. Personally, for me, that wasn't as much the case. I didn't really see it personally. I think what's going to win for a pilot at the end of the day is what set they can fly best. But I definitely think that the technology and everything's moving in that direction. Whether it's the debate's over or not, I would like to disagree on that. But I think that there's definitely a spot for 6S in everyone's arsenals, especially if you're going to be competitive with racing. So,
Brain Drain, tell us what you're thinking.
Yeah, I've been pushing the 6S thing forever, and I think as somebody getting in and being a new person, 6S is a more flexible setup. I mean, it's easy to go faster on that. That seems to be the bottom line. The 4S will go fast, and it might keep up, but you've got to have that magic setup. Where 6S is, you got a mediocre 6S setup, and it's pretty darn good. So,
Corey.
Yeah, I mean, I think the guys covered it really. If you're going to be buying new setups, or if you're just getting into quads, I think that you'd be shooting yourself in the foot to get components that don't cover the 6S spectrum. Maybe not motors per se yet, or 4S is still a lot more plentiful in batteries. I know that everybody's kind of waiting all the time to get batteries for 6S right now because the supply just can't keep up. But yeah, no, definitely 6S is definitely going to be the new standard, I would say. I don't think that anybody at this point is going to be buying a whole lot of 4S setups. It's not for racing. Freestyle is a different subject.
Makes sense. So next question, what's the perfect combo setup for 6S? I mean, we know about 4S. We've known about 4S for a while. What do you pilots think that the perfect combo setup for 6S is? And do you guys think the industry needs to work on these powerful setups like, 6S? Do they need to work more on them since a lot of people are starting to use them? Corey?
Yeah, so I'll start. There seems to be like a happy point in KV, anywhere from like 1600 to 1800 KV. Where you fall in there is kind of like a preference deal. Some people are saying a little bit higher than that, but in any case, the real thing the manufacturers I think need to deal with is we've been going towards higher and higher C on these batteries, C ratings, and with the 6S, we're not pulling nearly as much amperage, so we can go a lot lower on C rating. We can get a lot lighter batteries, because that's sort of the thing that's been shooting 6S in the foot is the weight of the batteries. But I know I fly for Power Flip. He's got some 1250 batteries coming out that should be right around 200 grams. We've kind of taken out. We've gone like light on the wire gauge, taken out the aluminum plates, did everything we could to get the battery, really low C rating and stuff like that. And I think that's going to be the ticket. There's just now we're starting to figure out that everything that we were doing on 4S is kind of, if we had just upped the voltage a long time ago, we wouldn't have had to burn all the stuff that we did. We wouldn't have to go so high in C rating. We wouldn't have to have such heavy batteries and stuff like that. So I think we're just going to adapt to the 6S thing, but I think we've been doing good. As soon as y'all announced that 6S was accepted at races, motors were available, catalyst was already on it, power was already on it. So it's been a pretty smooth transition. Some of the people are still kind of lagging behind and getting components, but yeah, it's good where it's at, in my opinion. The next thing to talk about is another subject altogether, but format, and maybe we'll get on that later on.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll come in on the since we're up the battery weight and things like that. Been thinking a lot about that. It's like why did we automatically jump up to it? And I think buddy Clinton and I were talking about that last night. I think because we're noticing that these batteries are sagging so much less, through the end of the flight, that we're just naturally wanting to hammer on it a lot more, and and ended up using using more, and then slapping on a heavier battery to support that. But if you're a pilot that isn't, you're not at a point where you can absolutely hammer on it through the whole course without crashing, you're not going to need those giant batteries that are a little more expensive. Like, it's okay to start with something that's in the 1050 range and a lower C rating, to keep costs down. Until you are pushing those batteries to the absolute break, to the limit, you don't have to lug around a big brick.
Yeah, I think it's also really important to note that if you're getting into it, get at least, if you're not sure whether or not to try 6S or 4S, get the rest of the components compatible with both 4S and 6S. There's a lot more electronics coming out on the market right now that can do both 4S, 5S, and 6S. So if you start with that stuff, that if you ever want to change from 4S to 6S or vice versa, I mean, at that point, all you would have to do is just swap batteries and then swap motors, and that's pretty much it. So I think that's what people need to start with, no matter what you're doing, is get a setup from the beginning, even if it costs a little bit more, that can do all of those things. And that way you can do what I've done, and that's just experiment with it. And that's what a lot of other people are doing. But if you don't have reliable electronics, like if you start with 4S cell and you only get ESCs that are rated for 4S, and then you want to try 6S, now you have to put on new ESCs, where if you just get a 6S ESC from the beginning, it'll run 4S. But I think that's really important for people both into the hobby experienced right now and for the manufacturers to take note, is that pretty much everything going forward from this point, no matter whether you're running 4S or 6S, should be 6S compatible. And I think it's moving in that direction. But anyhow, I think that's kind of my 2 cents on that.
Range Rain, I want to know what you're thinking about this.
Well, yeah, I think you said what setup works originally here, and I've been pushing these smaller, lighter setups since 4S, and they didn't really work. What I found out was I couldn't win races by getting rid of weight. I had to have big motors. What 6S has done is push that motor stator size back down. I can run a 2207, 2206, and now I'm running a 2205. I ran it all night tonight. It was absolutely glorious. The 2205 6S combination is absolutely beautiful. It's nice, lightweight. It gets around the track well and lasts a long time. So,
Found the same thing.
Yeah, 6S is allowing us to push those weights again back down, get the light setups, which gives us more durability. It's better all the way around. So that's kind of the direction I'm taking right now, is light aerodynamic frames to move forward.
Yeah, well, I mean, is it really bringing the weight down that much? Though, so I've been running my 6S setup I've been playing with recently is a 2205 1750 kV 6S setup, and the dry weight of the quad is probably I think it's around 230, 240 with prop, so it's considerably light. But the problem that we're still facing is even if we get new 200 gram batteries, I mean, I can take that same setup with a Forest motor, and granted, it's not going to fly as long on a track, especially like what I've noticed towards the end of the pack. Like you are getting more sag, your lap times will slow down. But at the end of the day, the quad, 1,300 milliamp battery that I run is 150 grams versus the current 6S batteries on the market. This is a 1250 Pyropax, like I think 210 grams, probably maybe even a little bit more than that. So I think that should bring us into the next discussion, which is like what I think we are picking it for, whether it's all around setups. Because for me personally, I like it for endurance, like regional qualifiers. I mean, you can hammer, like you're saying, for 2.5 minutes almost, and really like you may have to HV charge the battery a little bit, but like that's definitely a benefit of 6S. But in my opinion, versus a 4S setup of the same weight, it doesn't compare in lap times. It's more consistent as far as endurance, if that makes sense. Like it'll fly longer, but I think for heads up racing, I think still, in my opinion, the lighter weight 4S setup is going to get around the track much quicker.
But you're not. All right, I got to jump in on that one.
Go ahead. No, this is
So you're comparing. You're using. You're talking about the current 6S batteries, big heavy ones. It doesn't mean that you can't build a quad with the same all-up weight on 6S. And if you do, I think at least the physics support it, that it's going to perform as good or better.
Well, that's the problem is I can't build the same all-up weight quad on 6S as I can. Like my all-up weight on my Forest rigs right now is 385 grams, and the lowest I can get it on a 6S rig is that same weight plus 40 grams or
But
something.
that just comes down to component choice and availability. That doesn't mean it's physically incapable of performing the same or better at the
I agree.
at the same weight with the same watt-hour battery.
Well, I agree. I don't know. I think like if it was a 15-20 gram difference in weight, like it probably wouldn't be noticeable. But I mean, I'm talking 50 gram difference.
Well, you're basing it on
that's what's available.
Well, no, like I can give you an example of an 1850 or a 1900 milliamp for us that weighs 190 grams.
Right. Well, then now you're
okay.
closer.
So, but like this current battery right now, but see, that's the thing though, is if I put this 1900 milliamp battery on, I can almost do on the regional qualifiers with one of my setups. Almost, I'll agree. Like I said from the beginning, like it's the 6S definitely has the endurance. But I mean, if I bet you if I put a 2250 milliamp battery on, which I'm going to try here coming up this weekend, like 2250 milliamp battery, same weight as the 6S battery on my Forest quad. I don't know what's going to happen. I think it'll probably be able to fly just as long. I don't know. We'll see. I'm gonna leave that one. I'm not gonna make a conclusion on that. But my point being is like right now this is probably, I don't know what Corey, do you know the weight of this battery? It's a 1250
like
Pyro.
214, 215.
Okay, so 215. So I mean it's not
That's
much.
That's what I'm getting at is we're basing an all up weight on a 1300 4S and then a 1250, almost a 1300. Right. So we're the watt hours is ridiculously out of spectrum.
Yeah, it's totally invalid comparison.
That's what I was going to say next is like I think that's what Brian mentioned real fast is with 4S, and I agree 100% on this. The window, the margin you have with a 4S setup as far as to get it right and to get it to fly fast is like this small in my opinion. Yeah. And I'm working on that. I've been doing. Brian Morrissey actually inspired me last year to start playing around with this. Whereas with 6S, you do have a fairly bigger substantial margin. But I do think that if you get that 4S setup right, like with a lightweight 1300, like I think an average 1300 is 160, 165 grams. I know there's 1500s out there that are like 185 grams. I know Pyroflip makes some that are like 182 grams that are 1550. So like in that case, it's still like a 30, 40 gram increase. So like my point being, you have to be more specific with your 4S setups. But I think in my opinion, for at least heads up racing, that extra weight you save, in my opinion, especially if you get comfortable with it, is going to really help you out on the track.
But I don't think that's assuming that you can't build a 6S quad. You can't have a 6S battery that weighs the same as that.
I don't think it's really possible to keep the weight the same unless you go to like a smaller milliamp. 6S, like a 1050, is very close. But when you go to the 1050, now you start reintroducing the sag and the lower flight times. I mean, I've tried it.
Guys, I'm going through some of the chat questions now, and it's blowing up with questions. So I have to take some of their questions. Kebab FBV, who's in our chat right now, and he's asking, which goes along the question that you guys are talking about right now, or the topic. He says, unless you're skilled enough to push it to the limit, you don't need to bother with success. If you're competitive at the highest level, you almost don't have a choice anymore. What do you guys think about that?
I'll mention something on it. So, in that regard, then you're kind of saying that the people that don't think they're as fast as the top guys shouldn't come to race, basically. You're saying that they don't need 4S, and 6S is actually obviously better in that statement. So then you're saying that they don't need 4S, so then they're not competitive. So why? It almost comes back to like, why even have those people come race if that's the case?
You make a good point
there. But in either case, kind of segueing back to what Vanover was saying with the how specific a forest to be for the track. And then, so a poll that was just recently up on the MultiGP page, should we see the tracks before the race? And overwhelmingly, people want a surprise track. So 4S has a gap this big. You have to be very specific for the track. Regional qualifiers, you need a crazy efficient quad, not a fast one, an efficient one. Right. So, Open Grove, same thing. If you show up to a tight race like the Nationals course, you can get away with 4S probably. So it's very track specific, and we've got 90% of the pilots saying that they want a surprise track, and then we've got the 4S pilots saying that you can build a quad very specifically for a track. Well, how do you know what you're showing up to? Is my thing. So why shoot yourself in the foot? Bring a 6S quad that's a lot more versatile. No matter what you show up to, you'll likely be able to finish the race. It's just a smarter decision.
I think it's very important to be prepared with every step. Like, I'm going to go to races with 6S setups for that. Like, there's nothing that really tops that endurance that you get from the 6S setup. And I think you get what I'm saying. Like, all I was saying from my point of view for heads up specific racing, first to 3 laps, whatever, as long as you're prepared and everything like that, I still think my choice would be 4S. I'll let Brian talk because I kind of interrupted him.
Oh, you're fine. So yeah, I mean, track is straight up picking the winner here. I mean, that's the end of this debate. You have a track like the Midwest Drone Battle that we just went to. Second place was a Hawk 5, 4S 2300 kV motors. That guy was dominating all day long. And then you go to a track like Open Grove, which 4S just can't hang for that last lap. In there. I mean, that the end of the debate is what kind of track you put out there and how long you have to fly on it, and that settles the debate once and for all. 6S being the largest solution, with 4S sometimes being the solution.
Yeah, actually, I'd like to say something about that. Course designers, we don't need giant courses. It's okay to add some technical elements and bring the speed down.
Well, let me add one thing to that, because I know a lot of some people got the impression as far as Open Grove is concerned, because a lot happened at Open Grove. I had no problem with the track, to be honest. It was a very fast track for sure. But at the same time, I saw anyone who was there would agree it had its technical elements. It had gravity gates. It was just fast. I don't think the courses themselves are changing that much. I mean, Open Grove is definitely known for bigger, wider open courses. I think and then this is probably a whole nother debate, but the time formats, you cannot get people out there 2 minutes and then finish your lap in a head-to-head final race. I'm not trying to pick on anyone, but I think everyone who is in that final race would agree that running for 2.5 minutes, no matter 6S or 4S, is almost impossible. And granted, I was falling out of the air on 4S, but at the same time, I know people who were running 6s to that race who were finishing, and I mean, that's good, but they were finishing and they were having to conserve the battery. We're at a level of racing where some of us want to be able to push it as hard as we can and not have to conserve our batteries. So I think that we shouldn't have head rate. We shouldn't. People are running 1300 milliamp 6S.
I'm sorry, it's too small. It's too small. What do you want?
Yep. If you
finish the course, the battery's too small.
I agree.
Exactly.
I agree. So
that has everything to do with format.
But that's nothing to do with format. I think that we shouldn't see races like that where you're pushing your gear that much. I don't think
Well, that's what racing is. That's what electric racing is. The guy that kills their battery at the end of the race, if you do 1.5 minutes and you've got battery left over, you had too much battery.
But this is the problem. It goes back to the same surprise track, surprise everything. Without knowing the track, you could give me the format all day. I don't know what to bring unless I know what track it is and what format. If I've got to run 2.5 minutes at an indoor track, at an indoor golf arena or something like that, we're not going to be flying as balled out as we are on Open Grove. So, you're basically without giving a set finish line, or having like some really technical tracks, you're basically guaranteeing that the pro pilots are going to be the ones that have enough gear with them to be able to have that magic setup on race day. So I think that, it goes back to the, course designers, the race directors, stuff like that, being able to, on the day of, realize that there's an issue. If some of your top guys or some of the guys that everybody thinks is going to win that race is falling out on his final lap, that's a problem. So, I think at that point in time, we need to, refigure out what the format should be. Qualifying, we've talked about this, Brian, before. Qualifying being totally different from what the actual racing is going to be like. We have minute and a half races, but we have 2.5 minute qualifying. So essentially, you have to bring two different setups to every race.
I loved Open Grove. I loved it. It was 2.5 minute qualifying and 2.5 minute.
Because it was similar, right?
I absolutely loved it. I thought it was wonderful. I think there should be a rule stated basically in what I've assumed, which apparently is not clear, is it's 2.5 minutes. You need to go with the setup that finishes 2.5 minutes, and that's what you need to have in your bag. If you don't have something in your bag like that, you're not going to make it.
But that's track. What I'm saying is that's track dependent. We do local races every weekend. There's tracks where I can do 3.5 minutes, and then there's tracks that I can barely make 2. So, I have a setup that'll do 3 minutes, but I have a setup that'll also do 2. That same setup will do 2 minutes on a different track.
Yeah, sure.
So
it should be able to do 2.5 minutes at damn near full throttle.
Wow, heated conversation here, guys. You guys only can watch this right here on the Multi GP YouTube channel. Nowhere else.
But like,
okay,
sorry, go ahead.
Kelly, go ahead.
I was just going to add to that, and I don't want to start another debate, but I feel like, and we've discussed this, Brian and Corey, if you force yourself to fly for 2.5 minutes, that long, it's going to end up slowing down the quads, which I know that's a whole nother debate about whether that's going to help the sport or not. But that's just the reality of it. You're going to have to slow down the quads to be able to fly for 2.5 minutes. And a lot of us don't we can still stay head to head. We're just going really fast instead of slowing down.
So the key word there is slow the quads down, not the pilot. You have to slow the equipment down. Because in the middle of a race, in a final race, if Vanover passes me on lap 2, I'm trying to pass him back. I'm not going to hang back and be like, well, I know what my battery can do. Hopefully his dies before
I disagree with that. I think there is, I think it's totally possible, if we were in a longer race format, part of the race would be, exercising that race discipline, and checking your speed and knowing your setup and knowing what speed you're going to be able to fly to the finish line, knowing when you can sprint and when you can't. It's just like
at MDX, perfect example. MDX. There was a speed. It was like an oval track. It was like a NASCAR track. There was a speed that I knew that my quad could not go, and still finish the race. So every time I'm just flying in a line, and I'm watching people pass me, and I know I can't chase. That's sickening. It cost me $1,200 to get there, and then I have to watch people pass me. I know I can't race. It's not fun. We come to race. And
go to Open Grove where
everybody can run.
Or go to Open Grove and then realize you don't have the setups to be able to do a 2.5 minute race and then do something stupid. Intense. I'm serious though. I agree with you, Corey. You shouldn't
I think the burden is put on pilots too much, in my opinion.
Yes, I agree. I think taking some of the burden off the pilots is going to make the pilots want to push harder, fly faster, make us fly better. It's going to be more entertaining, I think, overall. But that's my 2 cents.
Guys, I gotta move this along. We're running out of time. I gotta touch on a few more things before we wrap up this. This discussion was pretty awesome, and I would like to see a continuation of this. A part 2 per se, but let me just touch on a few more things before we wrap it up. We have 5 more minutes. So if you guys haven't bought your tickets to I.O., guys, you got to do it. We're going to have X Class. What do you guys think of X Class, guys?
Love it.
It's going to be awesome.
Really
I love the idea of it, but we need some more. We need some, higher voltage ESCs. They're still, they're still running
Well,
ADAS pulling so much current they're melting connectors.
We
yeah.
got to talk about this next time. I'm going to bring this up with the X Class and IO and some of the things that are going on at IO. I really want to discuss with you guys because it's going to be an epic event. Are you guys all going?
Oh yeah.
I can't. I wish.
I can't.
We're going to get you, Retorius.
I can't go either. I'm not going to be there, unfortunately.
Well, I guess
really wish I
there's
was
more
there, but-
chances for other pilots to snag those top spots then.
Of course, leave it up to others.
All right. So if you haven't bought your ticket, make sure to log on to multigp.com. You can see all that info in the description. And what else have we missed? Also, if you want to get the regional series schedule, the 2018 regional series, log on to multigp.com and you can get all that scheduling, the pilot standings, and everything that you need. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. And if you like this live stream, let us know and we'll do it again. I definitely want to do this again with you guys and continue on some more discussions, especially
let's make it longer.
Class.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot more to talk about.
All right, guys. So thanks so much, and we will see you next time.